Hey, John Gilroy here. According to a study from last year, almost half of federal government agencies had their data security breached. Looks like a topic we should dive into. Hit the music, Manny. Welcome to the Federal Tech Podcast, the podcast that connects you to federal technology leaders. My name is John Gilroy, and I will be your moderator in the virtual studio today. A cold studio because he's calling in from Canada is Blain Canavan, Director of Alliances, PKI, and PQC Portfolio Focus from a company that we all seen, Thales. It's pronounced Thales. Is that right, Blair?
100%, bang on.
Good. We got that. Yeah.
Pronunciations are all in order today.
Yeah. And so this was a study I quoted from your company. It's a 2024 data threat report. I was surprised. I kind of jumped out. I said, what's going on, man? I think I saw an interview on Federal News Network, and that's why I contacted you folks, because tell me more. That's the phrase that pays here. Tell me more about, encryption and how to, okay, if that's the case, so maybe it's not half, maybe it's 20%. Well, 1% is too much. So let's talk about encryption in general, how it's progressed over the years, and the big spooky topic of quantum encryption. We can deal with that too. So give us a thumbnail sketch, just quantum over the years, and how do we wind up in this situation?
Well, thanks, John, first of all, for having me. And yes, I am in the cold north, but as you may know, it is just about summer up here. So I'm calling in from Ottawa, Canada, and we're in the 70s, we say Celsius, so it's in the 20s, but it's in the 70s. So I'm pretty happy. Sun's out. So why are we all here, and how does it all come to this? Well, as everybody in cybersecurity says, we must not be doing a good job because we're still here doing it. We haven't solved it yet. But as things have progressed over the last, and I'm now in my 36th year of cyber, little do we know that the threat risk has changed so dramatically, but somewhat the same. It's a dichotomy in its own right, because what we're seeing is that what we used to worry about in the past, let's call it the antivirus age, or now of course we're in the ransomware age, or we're in the advanced threat scenarios. The biggest challenge that we have right now is that the underpinning of this still remains the same for all of our infrastructure, and that's public key infrastructure. That's cryptography, and most of us don't really know about cryptography. In fact, there are not a lot of organizations, or should I say educational institutions, spitting out cryptographers today. And so what does that mean for us? It means that we kind of took it for granted that the plumbing and wiring just did and worked it the way it was. So, John, when I talk about this with friends, family, or those that are I have to put my layman terms in, I say, think of cryptography as the carbon that's in all things. You just kind of take it for granted. It's a natural ingredient that keeps things secure and maintains everything that we all take for granted, including the internet, that infrastructure that we rely on. Imagine if we didn't have the internet for 24 hours. Imagine. Well, that's where we're at right now, is that all good things come to, quote, an end. But in what we're seeing right now is we're transitioning to the next phase of cryptography, and that's the quantum or post-quantum cryptography, which is a whole new set of algorithms already in place right now, getting started to replace aging crypto, which we frankly use in everything. So I can walk you through that certainly at a high level and explain why does it matter to everybody.
I want to know why it matters to our federal listeners. So, sure. Blair's Donuts, who cares about, your maple donut recipe? I mean, you don't have to worry about that. But there are federal agencies that might have important information that gets out, bad things happen. And so I think we've talked about AES 256. That's one. Mm-hmm. So the information that's loaded on federal servers now, can we safely assume that's going to be safe for a while? And when post-quantum knocks on our door in 4 years, it's going to be gone? Or how much time do we have left?
Well, that's a great question. Let's set the table a little bit. The current cryptography that we rely on, the current most advanced cryptography, is RSA and ECC, or RSA or elliptic curve, and AES for symmetric encryption. AES and or 256, which is used for data at rest, files and databases and all the stuff that the feds and all of us leverage every single day. It's safe right now. Here's the challenge. NIST as an organization and the worldwide cryptographic community has been working since 2016 on replacing and enhancing all the public key cryptography, or asymmetric encryption, which is used for digital signatures, which is used for TLS and SSL, for all of us to access anything and everything, to any session management that we have between firewalls and identity and access management platforms. And whether it be Cisco or Palo Alto, or everybody uses RSA and ECC embedded in those technologies, whether it be software or hardware. Here's the problem. Data at rest right now is okay. The problem is, though, accessing that or exchanging that information is where the problem starts. And that's where the asymmetric is used to provide access to those portals, those websites, and so on. So if someone was able to compromise that and get in, or someone was able to compromise that actual session that we would do exchanging information across the web, that means that I can grab that private key and I can use that to decrypt that AES 256 database. And that's a bit scary. So the harvest now, decrypt later is really elemental to why we need to do something now. And we are doing something now. The U.S. federal government is taking a terrifically proactive and pragmatic approach. And that's saying, listen, by the end of 2030, you got to stop using RSA 2048. And by 2035, you got to have it out of there completely, meaning that we're moving to this next generation of algorithms. And these algorithms, by the way, we hope they stand the test of time. Let's be clear. They don't have 25 years of soak like we do with RSA or ECC. But assuming that we've done our jobs right, and when I say us, the entire world has been scrutinizing these things and putting them through rigorous testing. NIST accredited these, made these available in August of last year. And our organization is not immune. We consume as well as build technologies. We will implement those across our products, are implementing those within our products. Likewise, the federal government, anybody that's using any type of digital signature, signing code, because we do build applications in all these organizations, those must be PQC safe in 2025. That alone is putting people on their heels a little bit, which was, if you don't put a line in the sand, why would you do anything? So these are the reasons why we have compliance with CNSA and NSA saying, guys, you've got to get this done in 2025. What I mean by that is for digital signatures, signing code, signing firmware. Those are the things that are being worked on and implemented right now. So we're already got a great head start across the board. And as I said, with the U.S. federal government mandating these things with executive orders, I'm starting to see some really good adherence to those policies.
I'm going to use a very, very sophisticated question for you here, so you better put your thinking hat on.
All right. Hit me.
Bruce Willis was in this movie once where he had to go and destroy an asteroid because it was coming and destroying the Earth. Remember that movie? And yeah. And so, do we have an asteroid coming at us? I mean, is this what's going to happen? What if? I mean, I've raised 3 kids. I know the what if.
Right.
What if they drive the car into something? So what if the deadline doesn't get hit? And let's say there are, I love this phrase for the space industry, near-peer adversary. So what if there's a near-peer adversary that may have invested in a technology that possibly, I'm not going to make any accusations, it's possible that they can break some of these things. So how serious is it time to pack up and go to Yukon and get a cabin? Or
John, I think this is, without sounding too dramatic here, we do have an asteroid in some effect coming at us. This is often referred to by the media as Q Day. This is the time when we either are aware or it actually physically happens when a cryptographically relevant quantum computer makes an appearance in the world. And as you well know, nation states and many Western civilizations are building quantum computers, the IBMs, the Quantinuums, the /Honeywells, the IBMs, the Googles with IBM Willow and obviously Google Willow, and IBM with their chipsets. There's many more. Microsoft with Majorana. We're seeing two paradigms. The nation states are our biggest concern, is because I always remind people of 2 words: deep seek. Mm-hmm. You didn't see that coming now, did you? You didn't realize that the ingenuity and capability of mankind is such that some parts of the globe are investing billions. And in the case of, we can use statistical analysis, the Chinese have set aside that we know of $13.5 billion just to build the next generation of quantum computers. And what does that mean? When you get to a certain, it isn't just about the number of qubits or the performance of that said computer, but that is part of it. But you get a quantum computer that has enough error-free qubits, and there are different methods and so on that are happening right under our feet, literally on a weekly, monthly basis. There's ingenuity and changes to that statement. But when you get to a certain number of qubits, let's just say you need 5 to 10,000 error-free qubits. In other words, that the quantum entanglement has to be stable enough to run an application. And in this case, it was a 40-year-old application called Shor's algorithm. Shor's algorithm is really, unfortunately, is being used to now deprecate RSA and ECC, meaning that we can then blow past these old algorithms, or what would be considered then old or obsolete. Again, conventional computing right now, it's not broken. It's solid. We have not broken RSA. We have not broken ECC that we're aware of. But a quantum computer has that ability to break that. And there's speculation, but also predictability that we're within a 5-year potential. And again, as I mentioned, whether it be IBM or Google or the Chinese or whatever, somebody's going to come up with something that's going to be able to run a certain algorithm that's going to break these old, or what we could say current algorithms. So I would say that it's an asteroid, but we're not yelling at the windmill. The sky is not falling, because we're already embedding and implementing post-quantum safe asymmetric algorithms today. And that's a great way to get immune, if you will, or PQC ready now. The question now is, how real is it? How much time do I have? Do I have to start now? Should I have started 2 years ago? If I start 2 years from now, am I too late? This is now the unfortunate speculation that humankind is under.
Okay, time to brag. If you go to LinkedIn, you type in Blain Canavan, and what you'll see more profiles for you. And one of those profiles is Peter Shor from MIT. So you're running in the right crowd here. I don't know if it's the same Shor or not, but it could be, huh?
It's a community, that's for sure. We've built over the last 35 years, John. This is my age showing, but I can say I look back and remember when we started in cryptography. In my role, 36 years ago, we were putting HSMs, or hardware security modules, in at VeriSign and Entrust. And why did you need those things? Well, the world understood very quickly that if you compromise keys, the keys to the kingdom, if you leave them unattended, if you don't protect those crown jewels, this was the makings of the internet back in the day. That is a testament to why we're still doing those same best practices to this day. Now add PQC on top of that, we now have to retrofit the new algorithms to all of that infrastructure, hardware, software. Everything has to interoperate using those standards. It's an immense effort that we're undertaking. It's the largest cryptographic undertaking in human history. So we have to be pragmatic. We have to be realistic. And that's where the U.S. government departments are readying themselves, because they have to analyze, okay, what are we relying on? What are our most mission critical applications? Well, the internet, number one. Okay, great. We've got to solve that with our browser community. Okay, we've got that covered. What about our VPNs? Well, there are quantum safe VPNs coming to market. And then there are a whole list of other things underpinning that. And that's where cryptographic discovery, and the U.S. government is taking a terrific approach to this, with Dr. Garfield Jones from DISA saying, hey, listen, I'm setting aside $7 billion for you departments to do a cryptographic discovery and understand where it is, how it's being used. And I kind of equate this to, it's an MRI. It's a bit uncomfortable. You're going to find out things you might not want to know, but you got to know so you can fix what you have to get ready for post-quantum readiness. And that's really a big chunk of where I see the entire U.S. government taking a terrifically pragmatic and aggressive approach to getting this underfoot.
So, Blair, I take notes like a studious person would, and I wrote down 4 words here: harvest now, decrypt later. Okay, right. So let's say my medical records are encrypted, and an organization downloads them and says, yeah, we're going to download these because in about 3 or 4 years, we'll be able to encrypt them and blah, blah, blah. So it seems like there could be federal secrets that could be offloaded to other sites, and 3 years from now they can say, "Hey, we know this, and that." And so, is that really a thing? Should people worry about that?
Well, there's always the element of privacy versus security, and then there's also the potential compromise from a monetary point of view. If you're looking at this through all those different lenses, what do you think is the most, I guess, opportune thing to do if you had keys to the kingdom? Yeah. So I think all those scenarios are no different than what they are today. Compromise is compromise. If somebody wants to obtain medical records, PII, PCI, all of those different 3-letter acronyms, they're going to go ahead and do that regardless. I think what we're going to see is even more so and more, I wouldn't say awesome in the sense that, what if I'm able to just completely compromise an entire financial institution for the first time? What if I'm able to move information or move monetary value without anybody knowing, simply because I have something more powerful and more capable? So this is the whole, if I can become someone because I compromise those digital identities, and I can move information without anybody else knowing, I guess what we're really saying is it's complete open season as to where do you want to go. Because once you have the keys to the kingdom, and this is unfortunately a scenario that we have to look at, the world's your oyster. And so I can't speak on behalf of those that will take those opportunities, but we got to lock it down as quickly as we possibly can.
I always trying to put this in perspective, and I did some research this morning, and it turns out, post-quantum cryptography, there are conferences. This is talk about the asteroid coming, or there are conferences. Well, people like you sit down and must have closed-door meetings where they throw chairs and scream and go, "What about this? What about that?" This is not. I don't know if there's textbooks now. This is all. We're just playing by the rules right now. We're going to make up. It's like Calvin Ball. We're making up the rules, boys and girls, and get together and get mathematicians, but also, I think, logicians, and I think maybe people with knowledge of threats and military folks in there too. So this conference must be really some personalities.
Yeah, great question. Jokingly, it's like if you're a Spies Like Us fan and you think of Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase, the nerds in the basement have their day. And this is what's happening. Cryptographers have been around for generations, and now they're
always in the basement, you're telling me, right?
Huh? Always in the basement. What do you guys do? Well, cryptography. Not sure what that is. Now that's the keys. That's the, cliche aside, that is the most important thing because it underpins all cyber. It's embedded everything. But because it worked and it didn't need to be, quote, fixed, why would you worry about it? It wasn't a threat vector to go after and break cryptography. It's same as hardware security modules. If you're trying to break into a bank, the last place you're going to try and break in is through the most secure device in the infrastructure, and that's a hardware security module. But things have changed. And this is where cryptography now, and that's where post-quantum cryptography is not just trending, it's just going to be merged into traffic over time. So I can't let this go without blowing our own horn. So 3 years ago, I started this thing called PQC Palooza. And at our annual RSA conference that everybody's been going to for decades, myself included, I thought, what if we brought a bunch of people who had enthusiasts from post-quantum into a room and just to chat about what's going on? Well, we just finished our third one, and we went from 150 to 450 attendees from all over the planet talking about the same like-minded scenarios you described, and how are we all collectively as a village going to solve for this? And so this is a group of peers, not just enthusiasts, but this is the world's largest systems integration firms. This is the world's largest ecosystem vendors, the Googles, the Palo Altos, the Thaleses, all coming down together in a room, irrespective of competition. This is an inclusive group because nobody can go forward, similar to what we went through with COVID, where you need a cure, you need a solution. Let's put aside our differences. And when you saw that kind of worldwide approach, this is what we're doing right now, is we're finding ourselves all in a room, collective thought, making sure that we're not, again, confirmation bias or hype curve. We got to to get rid of that, and we got to drill down into what the pragmatic plans are. So that's what you mentioned. Conferences. Post-quantum is a very, very, very interesting and very attractive conversation point right now.
Many of my leaders aren't familiar with the dispute in quantum and quantum encryption and back and forth. They like quick little, what can I do today, Blair? And so I do a lot of fitness stuff. And people say, well, geez, how can I lose weight? And I have these catchphrases. And one of my catchphrases is, the whiter the bread, the quicker you're dead. So that's the first step in fitness. And that's like 1/1,000,000th of 1%. Okay. But that's the first step. Now, what about my federal government? Is the first step something like multi-factor authentication? Maybe strong multi-factor authentication? Is that the first step people can start with? Or so where's that fit in? Is that a baby step?
I hear that question. I think we would be doing a great disservice to assume that all those departments don't already have MFA or don't already have some semblance of, for example, they're all using every technology that we could probably throw a stick at, everything from privileged access management, identity and authentication. Thales builds some of the largest identity and access management solutions in the world. We assume everybody understands that and uses some semblance of that. Those things are fundamentally in place. Whether they're consistent and persistent is a conversation right now. And one of the things that we're finding through cryptographic discovery with our partners is that we assume that you have done this here, 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 and here. And what we're finding is when you do an inventory of an asset, again, cryptographic asset, you're finding out, you know what, we weren't doing key management across all of our divisions or in individual departments. Yeah. We thought we were using MFA appropriately. We thought we were using 2-factor or 3-factor. Maybe we shouldn't be doing it here, but we sure as heck better be doing it here. Case in point, we're the world's largest smart card manufacturer and also the world's largest SIM manufacturer, which means those go in those 2-factor identity cards. We find a lot of our customers might not be as good about using them that they should be. So this is another cryptographic hygiene scenario that we're starting to see. Is it's always been available, but whether or not you're using it thoroughly, properly, persistently, consistently, this is an opportunity to find out how many holes in our organization do we truly have? So I think that's where governments are doing a pretty good job at holding up the mirror to their own organizations. And like I said earlier, there's money set aside to find out, to do this undertaking of crypto discovery. And let me just tell you, I've seen this personally. When you do an inventory of a large enterprise, let's say it's a biopsy of one segment, let's say 10,000 endpoints, you will be blown away by the results. After seeing this, almost like you go in for a health check. Geez, I don't know if I really want to go and get my blood pressure taken and find out how overweight I am. But to your point, eat less and move more is the easiest thing. But it's not that simple for cryptography. It's not that simple for infrastructure. You just looking for it is really hard to do, but there's companies that are doing it.
Well, I try to address the concerns of the general audience, but there is a specific audience here. And there are people that can go toe-to-toe you with Blair and talk about, God doesn't roll dice and getting the whole quantum thing. And so if they want to find more information, I think we have a site at what I'll do is I put it in the show notes page. And so if you want to pursue this and learn more about Blair and some of the arguments he has and post-quantum crypto agility, and as difficult as that is, it's important to know. And I'm sure there's people who are listening who may want to know more. So I'll put that in the show notes page. It'd be great.
Well, appreciate that.
End of the show, crystal ball time. Is that asteroid going to come? Is it going to hit Blair? Or what's going to happen 5 years from now? What's going to happen? We're going to put it in granite and come back.
Well, I haven't moved my money out of my bank account into coffee cans in the backyard quite yet. But if you're concerned, you should be. As Dr. Mosca, who is probably one of the most renowned quantum experts in the world, University of Waterloo, my alma mater, and I speak quite often. He says, 20 years ago, this was just me, as I said, yelling at the windmill. But I said, but now we're within the grasp of this happening within not just our lifetime, within the next few years. So that asteroid, we certainly appreciate near misses of 1,000 kilometers is a terrible situation for the world to be in. We hope we're not there. But I think that there's enough earnest people and organizations and awareness. I can speak to this over the last few years that we are turning our attention properly. I think we're doing the right things. Nobody's perfect, but I believe that with the right people and the right initiative and momentum, and led by a lot of large governments and countries all over the globe, including Canada, I'd like to, shout out to our Canada as being one of the largest quantum research entities in the world. And that speaks volumes to why we all need to collaborate. So I would say don't get your telescope out quite yet, but pay attention.
Figurative telescope.
Right.
That's good. Well, unfortunately, Blair, we're running out of time. You have been listening to the Federal Tech Podcast with John Gilroy. I'd like to thank my guest, Blain Canavan, Director of Alliances, PKI and PQC Focus from a company called Thales.